Hello, students. Welcome to my class. I'm Keerti, and today we are going to study about sexual reproduction and flowering plants. Okay, before dive into deep, let's just have an overview of this chapter. Okay, let's first decode this chapter title, which says Sexual Reproduction in Flowering Plants. Okay, what does sexual implies here? We have already studied in our previous classes that there are two types of reproduction. One is sexual and other is asexual. Okay, the basic difference between these two is in case of sexual reproduction, gametes are involved. While in case of asexual reproduction, the reproduction is taking place through any means other than gametes. Maybe it's a vegetative part that is involved in case of plants, okay, or any other part of the plant. So, sexual reproduction, this reproduction means that something is being reproduced. And that too with the process which is sexual in nature. It means there must be some gametes are involved. These gametes are nothing but the sex cells that are involved in the reproduction. So here we are going to study about flowering plants. Okay, flowering means why it is written flowering. Because we know not each and every plant generates flower. Some of the plants have the ability to produce flowers and some have do not. Okay, so this flowering plants are known as angiosperm and which one which do not produce flowers. It means there is no production of flowers. These are known as gymnosperms. Okay. So we are clear with the terms. Why sexual? Why reproduction? Because something new is being produced. And why flowering? Because there are also non-flowering plants which are known as gymnosperms. Okay. Why reproduction is needed? Because we know reproduction is the only way to ensure the continuation of species. Whether we are talking about plants or animals or us, means the human beings. Okay? These sexual reproduction is concerned with the formation and fusion of gametes. These gametes are nothing but the sex cells. Okay? So it must be clear that there must be two partners involved. Okay? One will be male, other will be female. So female will also produce gamete, which are known as ovum, and male will also produce gametes, which are known as anther. Okay? I mean, these anther is the male gamete producing plant, the pollen grain eventually. And this ovum is being produced by ovary, of course. So this is the male gamete and this is the female gamete. Okay, let's have a look. See, why this sexual reproduction? Because this will create genetic diversity. What does genetic diversity means? It means that the offspring will have different character from the parents. Slightly different character. Okay? For example, in human beings, we as a child are not same as like our parents. Of course, we have a different identity. Some things remain unchanged, like since we are human beings, so we are being produced by our parents. So we have something same, like we have, you know, physically, we are same, having two hand, two leg, two eyes, but the internal composition of ours, the skin, the characters which are actually controlled by the gene, that leads to this genetic diversity. So this will also happen in case of plants that the genetic diversity will change slightly from the parents. So this will create a diversity that will help in the survival of plant. Okay, let's move to our first slide. See here, I have included a very beautiful picture. In in our day-to-day life, we use flowers in a lot of things. When we want to gift something exotic to our friends exclusively, so we bought them flowers. When we do our daily puja, we use flowers. When we use flowers for like decoration. So these flowers are used in n number of activities by us as humans. Okay. So this flowers have not only decorative value. Okay. This will also have medicinal values. So this chapter is concerned with the flowering plants. This this flowering plants, how this flowering plants create a number of diversity, how different colorful flowers are formed, what is responsible for this diversity. So in angiosperms, this flower is the reproductive organ. Why reproductive organ? Because it will have both male organ and female organ. See, contains both male and female reproductive structures. And these reproductive structures will form gamete. Male will form male gamete, female will form female gamete, and the gamete will fuse and fertilize to form zygote, which will develop into the next plant. Okay. See, this is the part of flower, a typical flower. This is the cross-sectional part of the flower. Here you can see this outer part, these which supports this ovary. Okay. This is a receptacle. Okay. This is known as thalamus. The green part is known as sepal, the green covering that you can see in a typical flower, in whatever flower you can think of. Think of hibiscus. This diagram is similar to that of hibiscus flower plant. Okay, this hibiscus will have a green covering outside that is known as sepal. Okay, it will have the colorful part. The colorful part are known as petal. A long tube-like structure will run and will rest on a part known as thalamus. The starting part, this is known as stigma. The tube-like part is known as style. And this circular part bulging in the end is known as ovary. This ovary is what? Female reproductive structure. And we have seen various, tube-like structure containing a dot-like bulge outside at the tip of this tube. This is known as anther. And this anther is what? The male reproductive structure. Okay? And the tube-like part in case of anther is known as filament. So you have to remember that this ovaries consist of what? Sigma, style, and ovary, that female reproductive part, and male reproductive structure will consist of anther and filament. See, this anther and filament is known as what? Stamen. So when we say stamen, we talk we are taking into consideration the both filament and anther. And when we are saying that we are talking about the carpel of a flowering plant, so we are concerned with all these three. Okay, this stigma, style, and ovary. The whole three part of the female reproductive structure. So in case of flowering plants, there are few events which are known as pre-fertilization event. Some of the events will take place during fertilization. Some of the changes the plant will undergo during the fertilization. And some of the changes will take place after fertilization. Okay. So some of the pre-fertilization events include the formation of floral buds and reproductive organs, obviously, and differentiation of microsporangia and megasporangia. See, this is female mother cell, and this is male mother cell. So this will ultimately a differentiation, various metabolic process will take place. The cellular changes will be undergone by this microsporangia. Okay, and it will ultimately lead to the formation of pollen. And this female mother cell will also go various differentiation in the cell structure and will lead to the formation of ovary. Okay. See here, this is all written. This is a simple process of microsporogenesis in case of males. What it will do, this microsporogenesis will lead to the formation of pollen grain from pollen mother cell. And this is a short ray diagram. This pollen mother cell undergo meiosis, of course, to form these tetras, and these tetras will ultimately lead to the formation of pollen grains that we will see in this chapter later on. Same goes for megasporogenesis. This is also an, you know, overview. This will lead to a formation of what? Megaspores will be formed. And one functional megaspore will develop from the embryo sac. Okay, so these two process we will deal in very deep, because the NCRT has shown you all the diagrams, the cross sectional of the megaspores and microspores. So we will, when dive into this chapter in deep, we will study this process in a very systematic way. Okay. See, of course, the sexual reproduction is taking place in case of plants. So plant is not moving. We already know plant is static to their place. So some of the agents must be involved. What kind of pollination the plants are undergoing to, perform the process of sexual reproduction? Okay. So various agents are involved in pollination. Pollination means nothing, just the transfer of pollen from anther to the stigma. Because for the fertilization to occur, pollen grain must reach to the stigma. Okay? To ultimately go and fertilize with the ovum. So this pollination is of three types: the autogamy, heterogamy, and xenogamy. This is a very simple picture to show what these three terms means. This is nothing when the anther of the same plant, okay, same flower is going to fertilize with the stigma of the same flower. It is known as self-pollination. Okay. So actually, in broad terms, we can see the pollination is of two type: cross and self. This self will have two: this autogamy and geitonogamy, and this cross pollination will be known as xenogamy. So cell autogamy means the stigma, suppose, see, this is the typical diagram. This anther of the same flower will going to end on the stigma of the same flower. So it is known as autogamy. Suppose this is a plant and this plant is having number of flowers. So this anther will go and fertilize with the another stigma of the same plant. This is known as geitonogamy. And xenogamy is nothing but the cross fertilization. It means there are two plants. So the anther of this flower of this plant, okay, will go and fertilize with the land on the stigma of the another plant. Okay. So for this process, some of the agents are involved. These agents may be classified into two, for example, abiotic and biotic. Biotic, of course, means the living ones, and abiotic means the non-living ones, means wind and water. Okay. And biotic means insects, birds, and bats. This picture is beautiful representation how this pollination is happening. Okay. This pollinator will sit on this flower. Some of the pollen grains will get stick into the surface, into its leg. It will go, transfer, and sit into the another plant where this pollination will take place. This pollen will, shed off on this stigma. And after that, some pollen pistil interaction will take place. Okay. A tube will be formed. This tube will carry this tube will carry the pollens into the ovum, which ultimately leads to the fertilization. Okay, that we will see. See. Okay, this is the diagram. Okay. This diagram is actually showing you the double fertilization. It is the characteristic features of angiosperm. Why double fertilization? Because the fertilization is taking place two times, not a single times. Okay. First, the egg will fuse with the male gametophyte to form a zygote. Second, it this male gametophyte will fuse with male gamete will fuse with two polar nuclei and leads to the formation of endosperm nucleus. This endosperm nucleus will actually help in the development of this zygote. Okay, this is the overall picture. Okay, this is the stigma. This we will deal. These three type of cells. What are these type of cells? These three type of cells are present inside the ovary. This antipodal egg cells and synergids. What they are doing, what they are functioning. What is this endosperm? Why it is written 3N here? This we will all talk about when we will be studying this the deeper in a deeper way. Okay, and after fertilization, of course, this zygote will be formed. Okay, see, this zygote is nothing but the embryo, and this endosperm will nourish what? The developing embryo. What will happen after fertilization? We already know, we are as a human, we are eating different kind of fruits. There are hell of a number of vegetables and fruits that are present in you know, in our environment. So these are all result of what? The flowering plant. Because the flowering plant are undergoing sexual reproduction. So what will happen? This is how the seed and fruit formation is actually taking place. This ovule will develop into seed after fertilization, and this ovary will develop into fruit. Okay. That is why the seeds are again used to, these seeds are again added into the soil, and it will lead to a formation of a new plant again. And this is the ovary. This will turn into fruit. This we will use in our diet. So this result of the sexual reproduction is nothing but what the seed that we are having, the fruit that we are having. This is possible only because the plants are going the process of sexual reproduction. That is why we are able to have food for us. Okay. And we are also going to see what why these apples are called false fruit, these parthenocarpic fruits, what is happening, why this is false fruit. Okay, see, apple is called false fruit because here we are seeing that the fruit is developed from the ovary. But in case of apple, the fleshy part, the fleshy part that we are having, the part that we are eating from the apple, it is not made up of ovary. Actually, it is made up of thalamus. That is why this apple is known as false fruit. Okay. And why this parthenocarpy? See, parthenocarpy is actually what we know after fertilization. We have seen that the ultimate byproducts are what? Seed and fruit. And in most cases, seeds are inside the fruit. Suppose say mango. Okay, mango have seeds. We eat the fleshy part, but the seed is inside the fruit. Okay, so parthenocarpy is a process where the development is fruit taking place without fertilization. It means there is no fertilization. It means the fruit that is developed is actually a sterile fruit. It will not have seeds. It will have it will not have seeds. What it actually means, suppose after pollination, there is production of berry, and that berry is happen to be seedless. But actually, the berry is not seedless. because fertilization is taking place, seed is formed. So parthenocarpy is nothing but the production of fruit without fertilization. Okay, so we will study this all these, what is this apomixis process, okay, the polyembryony, why there is production of more than one embryo per seed, why is it happening. Even seeds are in parthenocarpy, the fruits are formed without fertilization, and in apomixis seed is formed without fertilization. What is the need of this? So we will all deal this in this chapter. Today, this session is all about the overview of the chapter. I hope I have given you the terms, the names. You are now able to gather what type of events are going place during sexual reproduction, what a flower must undergo to produce the seeds that we are eating, the fruits that we are eating. Okay. So I hope you all are clear. You need to go again and again. Okay, just have a look, just go through your NCRT. First, have a read so that you can gather, pick up these words, bits and pieces of this chapter. And when we will, go into deep in this chapter, we will study each and every process in a very step-by manner. Okay, till then, keep revising, keep going through these slides. If you have any query, you can contact me through my Urban Pro profile. Okay. Okay, till then, take care. See you later. Bye.